The killings of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman are crimes that remain unsolved. The opinions expressed in this series represent just some of the many conceivable scenarios regarding how those crimes may have occurred. Jason Simpson has never been questioned or charged in relation to these crimes, and he has not made any public statements about any allegations regarding his involvement. We encourage viewers to reach their own conclusions. Previously.
Do I believe that O.J. Simpson committed the murder? No. Do I believe that Jason Lamar Simpson did? Yes. He had the opportunity, the means, and the motive to kill Nicole Simpson and Ronald Goldman. This is just one of the pages out of the diary written by Jason Lamar Simpson.
So much rage and hostility in this.
Let me show you his supposed alibi. It's his time card. According to the time card, he checked in at 2:30 and out at 10:30.
It's handwritten.
And there's no evidence to tie Jason Simpson to anything. He was not interviewed. We wanted to interview him, but when they get a lawyer and he says he's not going to talk, we don't get an interview.
How much evidence did you see of Jason at the scene? There was so much evidence against O.J. Simpson that it was unbelievable. I know that he did it.
Isn't it true that charges were brought against you for an assault?
Jason came out like a raving maniac. I got hit in the back of the head 3 times. It was very scary.
If you look at the passenger seat and the backrest, we have more blood.
There could have been 2 people. That makes more sense.
Is it weird that there's blood drops on the passenger side if he's driving the car by himself?
Sometimes you have to say, I don't know.
On the evening of June 12, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman were violently stabbed to death in Brentwood, California. Despite a high-profile investigation and trial, many still believe that the victims' families have never received justice.
My family is hurt, disappointed. I will never see my son again.
Now, Derek Levasseur and Chris Mondi are conducting an independent investigation into Bill Deere's theory that Jason Simpson was involved in the brutal crime. After examining the evidence against him, the team has decided to reach out to Jason Simpson.
You have reached the voice.
Still no answer.
We've tried a bunch of times so far. He's not gotten back to us. We've left some messages, so I think we got to do something different. I think it's important to give Jason every opportunity to explain and defend himself.
All right, we need to talk about Jason's alibi. Where was he the night of June 12, 1994?
I know exactly where he's at. He was at Jackson's Restaurant, a very famous restaurant in Beverly Hills where he was the chef. Normally he's a sous chef, but on Sunday, June 12th, he was the chef. He was expecting Nicole, her entire family. I think it was a matter of 13 people. He was also expecting his dad. And this was going to be important to him. His dad coming along with the family, and he's going to put forth the job of being the chef. She didn't show up, and neither did O.J.
So this is his big debut, and they blew him off.
Right.
Nobody showed up.
So Bill's theory is that Jason had this big night at Jackson's restaurant. Nicole and the entire family didn't show up. He was humiliated. He flies into a rage and drives over to her condo to confront her about it. They argue, it escalates, he ends up killing her. Far-fetched? Maybe. But I've seen less lead murder.
What evidence do you have, Bill, that that's how he felt that night?
Why don't you take a look at his deposition taken during the civil trial?
All right.
Let's go back to the telephone call that you had with Nicole on June 12th. Who called whom?
I don't remember. I probably called her, though, I would think, to find out exactly how many people were coming.
Tell me what you said after you called.
She said she didn't think that they were going to be swinging by Jackson's because it was just too expensive. You know, we'll just have dinner up the street. So it was just easier for her. I figured, okay, fine, go. I was kind of hurt. I wish they would have come to the restaurant, but now I really wish they would have come to the restaurant.
Did you tell you that Mr. Simpson would be attending this dinner?
Yeah, I assumed he would be there. He was down.
He did not attend the dinner, right?
Yes.
And did you find out why he didn't attend?
From my understanding, it's because she didn't want him there.
So this wasn't exactly what I expected. Jason Simpson comes across to me as kind of low-key. It's heartfelt. I find him to be genuine. This is Jason talking about what Bill says is Jason's motive for killing Nicole. And to me, he's not showing some dark side. Jason comes across like Nicole blowing him off really wasn't that big of a deal. What also strikes me is his comment, I kind of wish she had come here, because it's like he regrets the fact that something happened to her.
But then, which person is he now? Is he the nice guy now? Is he bad guy now? I have to agree with what you're saying, but when I look at him, see, I keep seeing a different Jason Simpson.
Guys, we're also looking at this guy knows that he's being filmed and he's got about 15 people probably in that room. Just because Jason didn't come off as a killer in that moment of the deposition didn't mean anything to me. If he has a fraction of OJ's smoothness, it could all be an act. He's manipulating the situation to give us a false impression of who he is. But you know what he can't manipulate? The hard evidence to where he was that night and what time he was there.
This is a replica of his time card for the night of June 12th, which he tried to establish as his airtight alibi. If you look at this, you notice in at 2:30, out at 10:30, total of 8 hours.
Right, which means if he was there and that's accurate, he couldn't have committed the murders.
But doesn't that look suspicious to you, Chris?
Well, there's no date, it's handwritten in, and the rest of the entries are electronic. Yeah, I do find that a bit odd.
Did we already confirm that nobody else had handwritten time in?
Correct. The LAPD bought it, and he was given an airtight alibi by the owner of the restaurant that he was cooking in front of 200 people on the night of June 12th.
Bill, how do we know that that top line there, that handwritten entry, is from Sunday, June 12th? It looks like it just easily could be Monday the 13th.
In my previous investigation, I contacted the co-owner of the restaurant, and he's the one that verified this. But I think it's somebody you need to talk to and make sure he verifies it with you.
Yeah, we definitely have to double check that one. What does Jason have to say about it?
I think his deposition will answer that.
Where you were working on the night of June 12th? When did you leave work?
I think it was around 10:30.
Did you punch out?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
I was with my girlfriend. She had my car.
So your girlfriend picked you up?
Yes.
Your girlfriend drove you where?
To her apartment.
And what did you do there?
Dropped her off.
And then went to your apartment?
Yes.
Did you go into her apartment at all?
I don't think so. No, I didn't. I just kissed her in the car and she went out,
And when you got to your apartment, what did you do when you got there?
Watch TV.
What time did you go to sleep?
Not till probably 3.
You had no idea where O.J. Simpson was, correct?
I wasn't even thinking about my family, to be perfectly honest.
And you didn't know where he was that evening?
No.
I found one thing stood right out at me. He punched out. But we just looked at the time card. It's handwritten, not punched.
Right, that is the one thing I have noted as well. You know, what I really like about the time card is it's literally black and white. It's a game changer. It's either gonna give Jason an airtight alibi or it's gonna bring a lot of questions into where he was that night. Because if it shows that Jason was not at the restaurant, he has a lot of explaining to do. However, if it shows that he was there, well then it completely debunks Bill's theory. So we really have to find out whether or not this time card is legit.
I told you how important this time card would be.
That handwritten entry there is a huge red flag, and it just means that we have to vet the entire alibi.
I agree.
As they investigate the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, Chris and Derek are taking a closer look at the alibi of O.J. Simpson's oldest son, Jason. A few hours before she was murdered, Nicole had canceled plans to dine at the restaurant where Jason worked as a chef.
I was kind of hurt. I wish they would have come to the restaurant, but now I really wish they would have come to the restaurant.
Bill Deere believed Nicole's last-minute cancellation sent Jason into a rage that led him to drive to her Brentwood condo after work and stab her and her friend Ronald Goldman to death. If this theory is correct, did Jason alter his time card, give himself an alibi?
If we confirm that's Jason's handwriting on the time card and we can disprove his alibi, it shows a clear line of deception on his part.
Why else would he falsify it unless he got something to hide?
For Chris and Derek, the next step is to verify that the time card is in fact in Jason's handwriting. To do that, they're meeting up again with handwriting expert Beth Crittman.
So we have the original documents you looked at. We also have this time card. I just want you to take a look at it, see what you think.
Okay. So we do have similarity in skill, spacing of the letters. We have similarity in definite stroke formations. It's highly probable that this is the same writer.
If we were to ask about a level of certainty, more likely than not?
I would say it's probably the same person.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Now that Derek and Chris have confirmed that the time card in question likely belonged to Jason Simpson, they need to confirm as well that the handwritten entry was from June 12, 1994, the night of the murders. To do that, they have tracked down a former co-owner of Jackson's restaurant who was one of the first people to connect the handwritten time card with the night of the murders. But before coming forward to tell his story, he requested that his face and name not be revealed.
We understand that you want to keep your identity and your likeness hidden, and we respect that. We appreciate you just speaking with us.
Through our investigation, it's become very important, the issue of Jason Simpson's time card, something we wouldn't even know about had you not come forward with it.
And to me, it's just I'm telling the truth in the situation that I was around. I invested in a restaurant in about 1993-94 where Jason Simpson was a sous chef.
This is Jackson's?
Jackson's on Beverly Boulevard. My role was a passive investor.
So you're a co-owner?
I was one of the co-owners. I wasn't involved in the restaurant anymore than going there and getting preferential treatment, saying hi to the two chefs and the other co-owners.
If you could you walk us through everything that you found interesting about the time card itself?
Sure. This top one is handwritten. Everything else is systematically punched through the machine.
And you felt that the handwritten portion here was in fact June 12, 1994.
I did.
Upon what basis did you believe that to be the case?
I think it was based on the discussion with the primary owner. I think it was the day after, maybe 2 days after the murder. And he called and said, hey, I've got something to show you. It's kind of interesting. And he showed me this, and he said, you know, it's stamped for this day. I said, well, you know, have you asked Jason? Yeah, he said he left at that time. So it is kind of unusual. I said, I'm sure at some point in time this will be questioned.
And you would say that, in best recollection, this time card was brought to you by the primary owner within 1 or 2 days of the actual murders?
Yes. You know, again, it's been a long time. I think he ran over to show me a time card from 2 weeks ago. It was relevant that this was that time card for that night.
On this time card, it says that Jason Simpson worked till 10:30 at night. Does that strike you as odd that he'd be working till 10:30 at night on a Sunday night?
I don't think the restaurant was that busy on weekend. You know, again, it's been a long time.
Right.
But I wouldn't go there on Sunday night.
Not a big night for going out.
No.
Right. What did you do after you became aware of it?
Again, I took a photocopy of it. It was shortly thereafter that I got a phone call from the LAPD, and they wanted to send someone over to talk to me.
What happened?
2 detectives came over. I think they were homicide, robbery, and, you know, I kind of felt like they were phoning it in. You know, it was like, check that box, and that was the end.
After spending 14 years at the LAPD, I have to wonder if the detectives wrote Jason Simpson off as a suspect as quickly as his co-owner said. I would think that these detectives would have investigated Jason Simpson's alibi and his time card unless they had serious tunnel vision and had already concluded that O.J. Simpson was the main suspect.
During Chris and I's investigation, we actually learned that the primary owner of Jackson's actually gave Jason Simpson an alibi for the evening.
Something to the effect of cooking for 200 people at the restaurant?
Well, that's not my experience, because I was at a dinner party with the primary owner that evening on Sunday night.
But what you're saying, the primary owner, he wasn't at the restaurant with Jason?
No.
He was with you?
Yes.
The interview with the co-owner definitely answered some questions for me, but it also opened up some new ones that I didn't expect. The primary owner of the restaurant, who actually gave Jason his alibi, was with the co-owner the night of the murders, not Jason. It makes me wonder, why would he feel the need to establish an alibi for Jason? Was he deliberately lying, or is this someone who just forgot the details of the events that night? Either way, it raises a flag, and we need to look into further.
After speaking with the co-owner of Jackson's restaurant, Chris and Derek are even more suspicious of Jason Simpson's time card, which could have been altered to create a false alibi. Did Jason fabricate evidence to avoid becoming a suspect in the vicious double murder?
You were working on the night of June 12th?
Yeah.
When did you leave work?
I think it was around 10:30.
Did you punch out?
Yeah.
With conflicting accounts of Jason Simpson's whereabouts on the night of June the 12th, 1994, investigators Chris Mondi and Derek Levasseur dig deeper into his alibi for the time of the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. If Jason Simpson forged the time he left Jackson's restaurant, when did he actually leave? And did he have enough time to drop off his girlfriend, arrive at the Bundy condo, and savagely slay two innocent people? During trial, the prosecution laid out a timeline for what they believed happened that night. The assailant entered through the rear gate of Nicole's wood condo. At the front of the condo, an altercation erupted between Nicole and the assailant. The murderer struck Nicole in the head, rendering her unconscious. It is believed Ron Goldman intervened, but was overpowered. A neighbor heard Nicole's dog barking at 10:15 p.m., leading the LAPD to believe that the killings happened at that time. But Bill Deere says that the murders occurred at 9:59 p.m., when he believes Nicole Simpson's watch was broken as the murderer knocked her violently to the ground. After the murders, the assailant fled the scene through the rear gate. Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman's bodies were discovered at 12:10 a.m. If Jason Simpson committed this crime, could he have altered his time card to cover up his involvement in the double murder?
So what'd you and Chris find out?
So we met with the co-owner of Jackson's, the guy who brought this whole time card to light. Seemed like a reasonable guy, successful businessman, didn't really seem to have any agenda in this whole thing, just kind of wants to do the right thing. When he gets a time card, automatically raises a red flag because he sees that on the night in question, it's handwritten. Eventually, the cops come out, they take possession of the time card from him, but he felt it was more of a courtesy call.
More like they were just going through the motions.
So who gave Jason the alibi?
The other co-owner, who ran the day at the restaurant, actually spoke with the police. They said that they were with him. However, according to the co-owner, that couldn't have happened because that other person was with him the night of the murder at a party.
So that guy that vouched for Jason wasn't even there to verify what time he indeed left. There's inconsistencies here that point towards this alibi not working so good for Jason.
If there's inconsistencies for us, why wasn't it for the LAPD? All they had to do was run Jason Lamar Simpson's criminal record and see if he was even ever arrested. He was on probation at the time of the murders. That should have been a red flag.
It doesn't matter how far the LAPD took it. It's all about this time card. What else do we have to support the fact that Jason wasn't at the restaurant until 10:30?
12 years ago, I interviewed the busboy, Carlos Ramos, who was on duty that night at Jackson's restaurant. And the information that he gave me went directly to what we're sitting here discussing right now.
Are you saying that what he's got to say goes against this alibi?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And it's something worth looking at.
And that's what I'm interested in.
Well, then we'll pull it up and look at it.
I'm just going to ask you on the night of June 12th, which was Sunday night, describe from the time you arrived at work, everything that occurred.
I was a busboy that time, or a food runner. It was really quiet, not a lot of people.
The restaurant would normally open.
I don't remember, it was 5 or 5:30 for dinner. And then on Sundays, I remember for sure we're closed the kitchen at 9.
Did Jason leave before you that night?
Yes.
Usually the chefs or the cooks, they'll leave first than us because they're done with serving the food, and yeah, they usually leave earlier.
This is a copy of the original time card that Jason Simpson had during that particular week beginning June 12th. I want you to glance at the top. Did you always fill in your name yourself, or did somebody else fill it in for you?
If I don't mistake, it was a label.
It was a label.
It was a label for all cards.
Glance at the top and notice that instead of clocking in on the night of June 12th, he hand wrote in.
And it says 10:30.
Any idea what time you left on June 12th?
Probably 9:45, 10 at the most. Like I told you, we have to stay until the end just to clean up everything, but I don't think no later than 10, pretty much, yeah.
Well, first off, where is he now? This interview was done 12 years ago, Bill.
I've looked for him, I can't find him. I have no idea right now.
In some ways, I like the fact that this was done 12 years ago. What am I going to weigh more heavily? This interview done closer in time to the homicides, or one that we're doing today was a lot of decay of memory? Carlos Ramos was reflecting on something that for him had happened 11 years before, but for the co-owner of Jackson's Restaurant, 23 years. That's a long time. Who knows how much his memories have changed?
There's a lot of new versions of what happened that night. There's all these different series and movies and documentaries. The guy didn't have any of that.
That being said, there's a couple of interesting things that he shared. First off, you know, he validates the idea that this restaurant would be done by 8:30 or 9 in terms of those chefs going home.
Right, kitchen closed by 9.
Cooks and the chefs are done pretty early. So for our purposes, I think we have to go with the conservative estimate, which would be 9 o'clock they're done, maybe 9:30 they're out of it.
I agree. He said on the time card it has labels, okay? We know this doesn't have a label.
Right.
And we also know that you checked in, had a label, and it clocked in, and not handwritten in.
Carlos's whole breakdown of how the time card system usually worked at Jackson's supports the fact that this time card could have been altered at a later date. Usually everyone who had worked at the restaurant for a decent amount of time had a label indicating that this time card was probably done after those labels were created, and Jason Simpson himself actually filled the top of that card and then added a time frame. Bottom line, what I take away from this is, if we believe Carlos, there's no way Jason Simpson could have been at the restaurant until 10:30. We gotta go with what Carlos is telling us, that the kitchen shut down at 9, let's say Jason leaves around 9:30. And so Jason has to get from Jackson's restaurant to the girlfriend's apartment all the way to Bundy by 9:59 p.m.
9:59 being the time, if you accept the watch having been broken during that first assault on Nicole.
That would give him an opportunity to have committed the murders. And that's why we have to do the drive based on 9:30 time frame and see if he would have been able to make that drive in that window.
There were problems with the time card, and that Sundays you wouldn't have had Jason Simpson or any other chef past 9 to 9:30. I find that something that's significant, and that in our own investigation, we need to thoroughly vet out. What we've got to figure out is Jason's most likely route once he got off work at Jackson's, which is on Beverly. So we'll call that right about here. And from there, he's got to get to his girlfriend's place over there on Stanley. Got it. Right about here.
Right.
Ultimately, he's got to end up on Bundy, right on Dorothy at Nicole's place.
There's Nicole's condo right there.
So we're talking about a line that would go, the most direct route would be to come down Beverly, it's a couple miles, 2 to 3 miles, back the other direction, passing his starting point, and the most direct route would be to come down Santa Monica Boulevard to Wilshire, down and around Wilshire, under the 405, go up Bundy, end up at Nicole's place around Dorothy. What we're talking about is that he would have to go through 4 of the most congested areas of the Los Angeles area.
I'm not trying to be a pessimist, but just looking at this geographically, it looks like an awful long ride to make in 29 minutes.
But you're dealing with a man who's mad, he's upset, you know, he's dropped off his girlfriend, he doesn't even go upstairs, and then he's headed over there to confront her because she stood him up and made him look bad.
The timeline of Bill's theory is really tight. I'm pretty skeptical about whether Jason could make that drive in 29 minutes, even if he were in a rage and tearing across town. But if they're able to do it, Bill's theory is still in play.
Bottom line is we can sit here on maps all day. The only way we're really gonna know is we drive it.
We gotta drive it.
On the night of June the 12th, 1994, the Goldman family lost a son and a brother. And 2 young children lost their mother. But who is responsible for these 2 brutal murders? Did Jason Simpson forge his time card and actually leave work no later than 9:30 p.m.? And if so, could he have reached Nicole's condo in time to commit the crime? Private investigator Bill Deere believes it is possible. So Chris and Derek are testing his theory by driving the route that Jason would have most likely taken on the night of the murders.
So this is where Jackson's restaurant would have been 23 years ago.
Yep. As soon as you pull up on it, I'm gonna start my clock.
Going for it now, man. And I got the odometer going as well.
Just keep moving due east here on Beverly, make a left on Stanley, about 1.5 miles up. That's the street.
That's where Jason's girl's apartment would be.
Exactly.
Okay. Jason probably got out of the restaurant about 9:30.
Exactly. And according to Bill's theory, the violent assault began at 9:59 when Nicole Brown Simpson's watch stopped on a blow. 29 minutes to get from Jackson's all the way over to her apartment, drop her off, and head all the way back to Bundy.
And strike the first blow. That's a tight window.
But we're gonna have to factor in all this traffic of daytime. This is not representative, but it's gonna give us a sense.
It's an idea.
It's an idea.
All right, so this is Stanley.
Here we come. We're pushing the building. Here we are, corner of Oakwood and Stanley. Let's turn around. Now let's head to Nicole's condo. Let's make a right up here on Beverly. We got a little ways to go to get to Bundy.
How far are we away?
I think we're a couple miles away.
Because I gotta tell you, every minute that goes by, I'm losing more and more faith.
Yeah, every minute goes by on the stopwatch.
Yeah, he's losing me a little bit more.
It's like another nail in the coffin of the theory.
Right.
Do a right on Bundy.
Okay.
And then a left on Dorothy. And then we'll just pull over and park. All right, it's coming up.
Darlington.
Dorothy.
Here we go. Here it is. Dorothy. What do you say, pull right in the alley, make it official?
I think so. Pull in the alley. Like you're just gonna hop out of the car all bent out of shape, pissed off, angry.
How long did it take me?
48 minutes and 31 seconds.
48 minutes, 31 seconds.
Mileage, 9.6.
So under 10 miles. So time-wise,
that's a long time.
Not even close. Bottom line is, we're gonna have to do this again, and we gotta do it on a Sunday night around
about that time. And take into account, things are different. There's more people on the road now. What Derek and I learned was that to get from Jackson's to the girlfriend's house and then all the way to Bundy, that's a lot of mileage to cover, a lot of traffic, and it would be very tough to take it in that time frame.
Based on Bill's theory, if Jason left the restaurant at 9:30, can he get from Jackson's restaurant to the girlfriend's house to here to Nicole's front door in that time frame?
I think it's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Although Derek and Chris couldn't disprove Bill's theory, they're still questioning his belief that Jason manipulated his time card to create an alibi for himself on the night of the murders.
I gotta tell you, surprisingly, I got a lot more out of that interview with the co-owner from Jackson's than I thought I would. How about the other owner giving Jason Simpson an alibi, and then this guy telling us, I found that a little odd because I was with him at a barbecue.
Yeah, I kind of buy that story, actually.
I do too.
I had no idea that he was interested in that time card so close in time to the homicides. He said it was a day or two after the homicides that he was looking into it.
That's just it, though. That's what's bothering me. He says got it a day or two after the murders, right? The murders happened on the 12th, right? If that time card that we have is correct and the handwritten time is the murders, then how was Saturday and Sunday already punched on that card if he photocopied it only after a couple days?
That is a problem, isn't it?
It's just something to think about, man.
You know what? I hadn't thought about that until you just mentioned it now. That is a problem because the rest of it wouldn't have been on there. It wouldn't have been complete to the point to get it in his hands. So it couldn't have been a day or two after. It had to be after that.
Maybe his time frame's off. I got a lot out of it today. You know, I'm just telling you, just not sitting right here, and I want to feel
I see what you're
confident
saying.
where I'm going with it.
You said before that time card is murky, and it's still sort of murky.
I'll say this much about the time card. Either it's going to help Jason or it's going to crush him.
Truly, this case is so interesting because everywhere you turn, there's another turn, and it's like, it's as deep a case as I think I've ever seen for that.
23 years later, it's still got people scratching their heads.
After investigating Jason Simpson's whereabouts in the hours before the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, Chris and Derek now turn their focus to what Jason's activities were after the murders.
Regardless of whether you believe in the alibi or not, this time card only attempts to answer where Jason was the night of the murders. It doesn't answer what his activities were following the murders.
I think if we look at his civil deposition, it'll give us an idea of exactly what went on the next day after the murders.
Here we go.
What did Darnell say?
She said, Jason, you come to Dad's house. She said Nicole had just died.
What'd you say?
I don't think I said anything. I said how? Because I couldn't figure out how. I thought she had a heart attack or something. And Darnell said no, she was killed. I just hung up the phone. I said, I'm coming over now.
And when you arrived, you went to Rockingham?
I first went to my girlfriend's house away because I couldn't drive. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do anything. On the way, I just had to pull over, and I was right by her house. I went there, kind of collapsed there for a second, and I gotta go get her now. So I went to the house, Rockingham.
Did you quit your job that week, by the way?
I didn't quit, no. They gave me some time off.
When did you vacate that apartment?
It was the week that everything happened. So from the 12th or the 13th to the 17th, I had friends like move all my stuff into my dad's house. Because once he went away, I moved into the house.
Okay, you've had an opportunity to look at Jason and his demeanor right after learning about the murders and then the days following the murders.
Well, it's actually not what we're seeing, Bill. What we're seeing is his reaction 2 years later during a deposition after he's had a chance to have this all sink in, and he's recalling what his reactions were at that point in time, and frankly, what I saw looked pretty normal. You've got to remember that this is Jason in a very formal setting within the context of his father's civil trial. It's been 2 years since the crimes, emotions subside over time, plus lawyers do a lot of preparation before depositions about how to respond. I honestly wouldn't expect an outpour of emotion given passage of time in this particular setting.
How could he be normal in reacting to that? Even the way he did the deposition 2 years later, it didn't seem that there was any emotion. He didn't act like he was upset in any way.
Actually, Bill, I looked at the expressions in his face, what we call micro-expressions that occur, in your facial musculature. I looked at a variety of nonverbal indicators that seemed to ring true in terms of him having an emotional response to what was going on.
See, I looked at it just the opposite. But again, that's why we're here.
There's a lot of psychology behind all this, which is definitely out of my field. What I took from it was what he stated he did after the murders, and maybe that gives us a better indicator to how he reacted to that. One, his stepmother had been killed, and two, his father was a serious suspect, and he stopped working after the murders. He took some time off.
He felt compelled to go there immediately and be with his family. And that's a normal reaction. If he was paranoid about the police being there to interview him and having a guilty conscience, he wouldn't just want to go right over there. He wouldn't.
But I will tell you this, he didn't go right over there. He went to his girlfriend's house. Was he going there to make sure he established an alibi for the night of June 12th before he went to Rockingham and maybe meeting with the police department? I think that's...
Was he going over there for solace? Was he going over there for comfort? I gotta tell you, Bill, I respect your opinion. Bottom line is, that deposition was 1996. We've tried to reach out and get a hold of Jason, have not yet been successful. And you've gotten the PI involved, and that will tell us something about what his demeanor's like today, if there's been any kind of new developments.
To get more information about Jason Simpson today, Bill Deere has enlisted the help of private investigator Robin Martinelli, who was able to conduct a surveillance.
Hello, Robin.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Just fine. We're anxious now to hear what you've been able to uncover on your investigation on Jason Simpson.
Yes, surveillancing Mr. Simpson. We started pre-surveillance at his apartment complex about 5 miles outside the city. We observed him in apartment complex driving a smart car. We know that he's married because he has a wedding ring on, and he also has a Dodge Durango. Here's the shot of him getting into the Durango, and he has a large beard and he has no hair on his head. He is a chef at a restaurant downtown. Here's some footage of him at the restaurant. He appears to be a lead chef on the front line of the restaurant. He's not cooking anything. He is observing and putting cheese and garnishing plates as they go out to the patron.
How did he react to the other employees?
He was somewhat aloof.
He seems to be professional then, handling his job and running the kitchen.
It appears to be professional, yes.
A lot of the work that I've done in the past, I'll often ask a question, and that is, do you like him?
I observed that he was not a very jovial or active person. I didn't see a smile. He didn't seem warm or inviting or cordial. Seemed pretty cold and, like I said, aloof. He just didn't seem happy. We never saw him happy once.
Robin, other than the photo of him at his vehicles and him at his workplace, did you have any other encounters for him where you were able to capture footage?
Yes, as you can see, he's walking to his vehicle very slowly, and we had a close encounter with him as if he's looking over at us, seeing us in the car, which we have very dark tinted windows, but he's looking over and no expression, but kind of like looking over and walking slowly.
Wow.
Robin, it seems what you're telling us is that you've been watching a guy who just basically goes to work, has a wife, sort of aloof, kind of off in his own world, but showing up, being responsible, leading kind of simple life. Nothing extravagant, nothing really stands out, just kind of getting by.
Yes, very average.
Very average.
Very, very average.
Robin, I want to thank you on behalf of all three of us.
Thank you, Bill. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
Too.
What'd y'all take from that?
It was sobering. It's interesting to put a face with the name. I mean, we've been looking at a lot of pictures of Jason and looking at his deposition, and he clearly doesn't look anything like the guy that we've been talking about for the duration of this investigation.
Seeing this really humanized Jason for me. It may just be the psychologist in me talking, but it made it very real that what we're doing here is we're looking at a person who's in our world right now, just trying to get by. And yeah, he may be aloof and reclusive, but think about it. His dad's in prison. He's lost a woman he cared about. For me, it brought it home that we better be darn careful about where we're going with this, because this is a person who's just trying to live life is what this looked like to me.
But how do you know that he hasn't been suffering inside the whole time?
Exactly.
We can't know that.
Remember everything he said in his diaries. I'm tired of being Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. The note.
I don't know that it's a fair characterization to consider him to be that same person. It looks like he's got a stable place in his life. He didn't look happy. She described him as aloof. And to me, that makes him human. Seeing that footage drove home to me that this is a person, and we better be right with whatever we come up with, because lives being affected by what we're doing, we have responsibility to make sure that we're being thorough and accurate. He's a human being, and it's not abstract anymore, it's real.
What'd you take from it, Darren?
What I take from it is just the facts, and these are facts. He's still working a job, a respectable job. He does say to himself he's a little bit of a recluse, but that's normal. He's kind of lived a troubled life. So that's what I take from it, and honestly, I think that's all you should take from it. And I think it's important to the case to know who he is, but we can't really draw any conclusion as to who he is as a person today based on what we saw.
That I'm in full agreement with.
Connecting with Robin, the private investigator, it was interesting. It does give you an idea of who Jason is as a person today, but you have to keep an open mind until the last piece of evidence is collected. It motivates me to work hard because clearly there's some unanswered questions that both the victims and families deserve to have answered. And if we can give some closure to them, that's the #1 thing.
Next time.
The night of the murders, O.J. Simpson says there was an accomplice.
If there's truth to this, it makes a lot of sense.
O.J. said, you know, I couldn't have done this alone. I said, okay, let's call this person Charlie.
You think O.J. did it?
What I experienced that night, I believe he's guilty.
Jason was interviewed by the police.
He wasn't interviewed by the police.
He was not? Oh, my God. I noticed 2 African-American males.
There was another person in the Bronco?
Yes.
Available now at IDGO.com.
This is Michael Martin. He was there on the night of the murders of Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman.
It's about how it all went down.
If there's some truth to this, it would explain the blood found on the Bronco's passenger side. The bottom line is, we're all coming to the same conclusion.
Is O.J. innocent? The missing evidence. The special investigation concludes tomorrow at 9, only on Investigation Discovery. Next episode available now at IDGO.com.